Orcas are easily the most dominant predators in our oceans, and it almost seems as though hunting is too easy for them. They'll destroy their closest competitors, and they'll even eliminate the largest animal to have ever lived, and we can count ourselves lucky that they mostly choose to leave us alone. Only the cruelty of captivity can turn them into human killers, but unfortunately for a massive group of marine mammals, they are on the menu. It almost seems unfair for other animals to have to face these formidable predators, but surprisingly in some cases, marine mammals fight back or manage to outsmart orcas. In today's video, we'll be going through just a few of the most impressive examples, and we'll start off with the most famous one. Humpback whales are among the most distinctive and fascinating of their kind, and they have a few habits and behaviours that set them apart from other baleen whales. They are renowned for their beautiful complex calls, and their active hunting and breaching behaviours make them favourites of whale watchers and wildlife enthusiasts. These giants are mostly harmless, but you need to be cautious around them, as people have been accidentally swallowed and released, and others have tragically lost their lives after a breaching humpback whale landed on their boat. Even though the humpback is a giant with a maximum weight of around 40 metric tons, it's nothing compared to the blue whale, which can reach an estimated 200 metric tons. Despite this substantial difference in weight, orcas have a much easier time hunting blue whales than they do humpback whales. When orcas hunt humpbacks, they usually only target their young, as a fully grown humpback can cause some serious damage. The main reason behind why humpbacks are more dangerous than other whales is their anatomy, as they have relatively long pectoral fins and a powerful tail and wide fluke. This means that they can swipe at potential predators pretty effectively, and this is why most orcas choose to leave the adults alone. I think it's fair to say that a humpback could take down an orca in the right situation, but so far there hasn't been a confirmed case where a humpback whale successfully eliminated an orca. For some humpback whales, simply defending themselves against orcas isn't enough, as in a few cases, humpbacks have been witnessed reacting to orca calls by ambushing them and disrupting their hunts. Back in 2022, off the coast of Canada, a humpback whale was witnessed ambushing a pod of 9 orcas, and eventually he was successful in driving them off. Back in 2016, while filming Frozen Planet in Antarctica, marine ecologist Robert Pittman witnessed 2 humpbacks saving a Weddell seal from orcas. After the orcas were driven off, they started to hunt a crab-eater seal that was on a small piece of ice, and they were using the wave-washing technique to try and dislodge the seal. To the amazement of the people watching on, the humpbacks charged again to save a second seal, and by slapping the water and acting aggressively, they once again drove off the orcas. This incredible behaviour is rarely seen in the animal kingdom, and there are a surprisingly high number of cases involving humpback whales around the globe. There are a few theories behind why humpback whales put themselves in danger in this way, but we'll never know the real answer until we figure out a way to communicate with these complex animals. Some experts suggest that because humpbacks that encounter orcas have stressful encounters with them, whenever they encounter them or even hear them, they spring into action to drive them away. This would also be an effective way to ensure the survival of your species, as it means that mother humpbacks and their young that are in the area would be safe. Others suggest that it's a reaction to being potentially hunted, as instead of running, they choose to charge the orcas to prove that they aren't to be messed with. The problem with this second theory is the fact that they have appeared to help multiple animals even once the danger has gone away, and this leads us to our final and my personal favourite theory. Whales are extremely complex and caring animals, and they have many behaviours that we are still yet to fully understand. It's possible that the humpbacks are capable of feeling empathy, and might choose to help their fellow marine mammals as they don't want to see and hear them suffer. There is even more evidence to support this final theory, as not only will they help other marine mammals that are being hunted by orcas, but they'll also help other whales that have been caught in fishing gear. These displays of compassion should not be overlooked, and if you're a marine mammal and you hear the sound of orcas approaching in the distance, it would be a good idea to find your nearest humpback. There are 2 species of pilot whale alive today, the long-finned pilot whale and the short-finned pilot whale. These cetaceans are known for their deep diving capabilities, as they can dive as deep as 600 meters in search of their desired prey, which usually comes in the form of squid. Both species are pretty large for oceanic dolphins, with their size only being bested by the mighty orca. I was lucky enough to have seen these animals resting off of the coast of the Canary Islands, and it was interesting to see how calm and at peace they appeared to be. This was why I was surprised to find out how aggressive they can be in certain situations, as they are one of only a few animals that are capable of scaring off orcas. Now, there are multiple YouTube videos claiming that pilot whales could match orcas if they were to come to blows, but this is a bit of an exaggeration, and in some cases, orcas will successfully hunt them. Despite this, there have been a few documented instances where pilot whales have appeared to scare off orcas in their area, and it's happened quite a few times off the coast of Iceland. Now, the orcas that visit the waters around Iceland aren't pushovers, with the infamous Tillicum being stolen from this area back in 1983. The Icelandic Orca Project documents many of the strange interactions that orcas have around Iceland, and back in 2015, marine mammal scientist Philippa Samara witnessed a group of pilot whales scaring off a pod of orcas. The team were eavesdropping on a group of nearby orcas, when suddenly they heard a different frequency of squeals and whistles in the distance. When this happened, the orcas went silent, and when the pilot whales came into view, the orcas appeared to turn and swim off in the opposite direction. Surprisingly, this wasn't a standalone case, as Philippa and her team documented at least 20 other similar instances. At first, this might seem strange as the orcas could easily defeat the smaller pilot whales, but it seems as though the fight just isn't worth their time. There are a few theories behind why orcas flee when encountered by pilot whales, but despite what some sources claim, it's unlikely that orcas fear them. Instead, it's likely that the orcas see the pilot whales as a nuisance, and they are unable to effectively hunt with the pilot whales mobbing them. When the pilot whales charge, they usually have numbers on their side, which would make it harder for the orcas to pick them off or fight back. Experts are still trying to understand more about these interactions, but I think it's fair to say that the pilot whales are extremely brave for doing what they do. The Steller sea lion is the largest species of sea lion in the world, with some males weighing over a metric ton. Despite this, they are still pretty screwed if they come face to face with an orca in the wild, and it would be a good idea to try and leave the water the first time an orca is detected. Because the males are so large and have a pretty nasty bite, they can be tricky animals to hunt, and some brave individuals have found a way to make hunting them even harder. Being a sea lion can be pretty terrifying at times, because not only do you have to look out for orcas, as sharks would love to take a bite out of you too. In places such as South Africa and Australia, sea lions have been witnessed engaging in mobbing behaviour, which is where a group of sea lions follow the shark to disrupt their hunts. Mobbing behaviour means that the predators lose the element of surprise, and it makes picking out a target almost impossible. Of course, sea lions aren't the only animals to use this technique, as it's pretty common in the bird world. This is why when you see a large bird of prey in the wild, it's often being harassed by much smaller birds, and if done right, it's pretty effective. Now, mobbing a great white shark is a lot easier than mobbing an orca, as they are far more intelligent and usually work together while hunting. This is why mobbing behaviour between Steller sea lions and orcas is rare, but it's one way that they can work together to try and outsmart the orcas. This technique is only really effective close to land as it offers the sea lions an escape route, and in open waters it would be easier for the orcas to outmaneuver the mobbing sea lions. To even attempt to do this and put yourself in danger, you must be extremely brave, and similar behaviours have been witnessed with the South American sea lions, which are actually the second largest species. So if you're a sea lion, the best thing that you can do when you meet an orca is to exit the water, but if you're feeling brave, jumping back in the water might help to save your friends. The sperm whale is more than a match for an orca, with the largest males capable of reaching weights of around 57 metric tons. As well as having size on their side, they also have large teeth, but they aren't really designed for biting large mammals such as orcas. Sperm whales head into the depths to hunt giant squid, and their teeth are best suited for snaring these soft-bodied giants. This means that biting might not be the best plan when they come face to face with orcas, but thankfully sperm whales have a few other strategies that are often effective. When they attack, these predators will mostly target the young and females, so the males tend to protect the vulnerable members of the group by creating a defensive rosette. If this doesn't work, they will use their incredibly loud clicks to deter the orcas, and these clicks are primarily used for echolocation to detect giant squid in the depths. At first, this might not seem like much of a deterrent, but it's believed that if you get close enough underwater, these clicks would be able to kill a human. They are powerful enough to burst eardrums and possibly rupture internal organs, but thankfully there is no record of anybody dying in this way. If all of these strategies fail to deter orcas, then they have one more party trick up their sleeve, and that's to completely empty their bowels in the worst way that they can. In March of last year, off the coast of Western Australia, a pod of sperm whales were being pursued by around 30 orcas. This was when scientists witnessed a big dark bubble appear in the water, and it soon became clear that at least one of the sperm whales had defecated in the water. The sperm whale didn't do this because it was terrified, as actually it's a defensive behaviour known as defensive defecation. This not only potentially puts the attackers off their food with the stench, but it also produces a cloud in the water that confuses the orcas and allows them to escape. Sperm whales can dive far deeper than orcas and almost all other mammals, so this distraction is all they need to escape. Because of the sperm whale's diet, their poop can be a darkish red colour, and at first, in the case off of the coast of Western Australia, the scientists thought the poop was blood. Soon after the defensive defecation, the orcas quickly decided to leave, and it's almost as if they decided that it would be too much effort to continue to hunt them. As we've been over in the previous stories, you don't need to go into battle to defeat or escape from orcas, as instead all you need to do is convince them that you're going to be too much hassle to hunt. Pooping yourself is one of the most creative ways to convince predators that you're not worth hunting, so I guess it makes sense that the sperm whale has the largest brain in the animal kingdom. Because walruses are such substantial animals with some males weighing over 2 metric tons, only 2 other animals apart from man are known to hunt them on a regular basis: the polar bear and, if you haven't guessed already, the orca. Even though both of these predators can be successful when hunting them, they are far from an easy meal. Most of the time, polar bears will charge large groups of walruses on land, and then they will usually eat the animals that have died from the resulting stampede. The males will often fight back against the bears with their tusks, and their thick blubber makes it extremely difficult for the bears to land a killer blow. Because orcas are so much larger, defeating a walrus is relatively easy for them, but the larger males can cause problems. Walruses mostly forage on the ocean floor in relatively shallow areas, so if they detect that orcas are nearby, then they can often escape to the safety of land or ice. If this fails, they'll use their tusks to attack the predators, and this can result in a pretty nasty injury for the orcas. There is anecdotal evidence of a walrus impaling an orca, resulting in both animals dying, but this would have to be an extremely lucky jab for the walrus. Because the walrus is such a tricky and risky animal to target, they still make up a relatively small percentage of both the polar bears and the orcas' diets. They are often viewed as quite clumsy and vulnerable animals, but they've had a few interactions with humans in the past that have proved that they are not to be messed with. In 2019, a walrus capsized a scientific vessel that was approaching an Arctic shoreline, but thankfully the whole crew survived the ordeal. There have been a few stories in the early 1900s where people were killed after their boats were capsized by walruses, but one of the most recent fatal incidents once again occurred in captivity. Captivity seems to have a strange effect on marine mammals, with many of them losing their fear of humans or becoming more violent. Back in 2016, in a wildlife park in eastern China, a tourist and a zookeeper were drowned by a walrus. The tourist had been taking selfies with the walrus when it playfully grabbed him from behind, and then it held him underwater until he drowned. The trainer tried to intervene, but there was little that he could do as the walrus weighed 1.5 tons, and in the end both the tourist and the trainer died. This tragic case, along with evidence from hunters and kayakers, shows us just how dangerous these animals can be when they feel threatened, and this might be part of the reason why most of the time orcas choose to hunt easier prey. So the walrus joins the shortlist of animals that can deter these magnificent predators, but if they really wanted to take the risk, then the orcas would destroy them. Of course, there are a few other animals that could have made it into this video, so if you have any suggestions, then feel free to let me know. But for now, that's about it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.